All right, so in this problem, we have the population of a small town, which is our initial value, so 1,600, and it's increasing at a rate of 3%. So we are not allowed to have percentage, so we have to divide by 100, and we're going to get 0.03. Now, A times B raised to the t is our equation. So what we want to do is, first off, it's really important for you to know that your B value equals 1 plus the rate. So our A value is 1,600, and then we have to do the 1 plus because it's growing, it's increasing, 0.03, and then raised to the t power or the x power, it does not matter. Now, to simplify, all you're doing is actually adding. So 1 plus 0.03, and then raise it to the t or x. Now it says to model, predict after 10 years. So you have your equation 1,600, 1 times 0.3 raised to the 10 because that's our years. So it goes into your time. Round your answer to the nearest whole number. So that would be 2,150. That's how many people we would have. All right, in the next problem, we want to be careful because it's saying depreciating, which is minusing. So your A value is the start of the car. Depreciating means it's decreasing. So your B value is going to be 1 minus the 12% turned into a decimal. So 12% divided by 100 is 0.12. So it's going to be 1 minus 0.12. So once again, first thing that you do is just write the initial value. Then 1 minus, you're always going to start with 1. If you're adding, you're going to put a plus. If you're minusing or taking away from the value, you're going to do the minus sign and then raise to the t. Now, what you want to do in the next step is actually simplify it. So you're going to get the B value, which is 0.88. So y equals the 1,800, or 18,000 rather, 0.88, and then raise to the t. Now, how much will the car be after 10 years? You want to plug in the 10 to the time, which is your x or your t variable. So once again, it says round the answer to the nearest whole number. So that means it's going to be $5,013. So the car will be worth $5,013 after 10 years. For this problem, it says lower to positive 12,000. So our A is going to be the 12,000, and it earns 8%. So 8 divided by 100 is 0.08. Remember, earns mean we're going to add. So we always want to start with the 1. So we have the 12,000, and then 1 plus the 0.08, and then raised to the t. I added 1 too many zeros. All right, so one thing that's really important is that it says quarterly. So this is compounded quarterly. Compounded means it happens 4 times a year, okay? So you really want to read the problem correctly. I did not. So the correct way of writing it, you have to divide your rate by the 4 because it's quarterly, and then you have to multiply the time by 4 as well, which I will explain in a moment. I think how I coded it, you need it in parentheses, if I remember correctly. Okay, so if you put an X or a T, the coding may be incorrect, but it is right. Use your model to approximate how much money will be in her account after 5 years. So all you do is copy and paste it, and instead of the time, the T, or the X, whatever variable you chose, you're going to write a 5. And then it asks you to round to the nearest whole number, so it's going to be $17,831. All right, so for the next one, depreciates, once again, that means we're taking away from the value of the tractor. So if it starts at 50,000, that's going to be your A value. Your B value is going to be the 1 minus, because it's depreciating, 0.09, because 9% divided by 100 gets you 0.09. So you want to put that as y equals the 50,000, and then 1 minus the 0.09, and then raised to the t power. Now all I'm looking for here is you actually minus, so that's 0.91. So y equals the 50,000 again, and then 0.91 raised to the t. Remember, t is for time. So in the next part it says, well, how much is the tractor going to be worth after 7 years? So we have this equation, and instead of t, we can put any number. In this case, it wants to know the value after 7 years. So the tractor will be worth $25,838. Now this is where we have to be careful. It says compounded semi-annually. So semi-annually means 2. It happens twice a year. So the interest is 3.9 divided by 100, which is going to get you 0.039. And then he invested the $4,000. So we have the y equals 4,000, and then 1 plus our rate divided by 2, because it happens twice. It's compounded annually or semi-annually. Semi means twice a year. And then we want to multiply 2 times the time as well. Now, here we go. Instead of the t, we're going to put the 12. Remember, when you do this, you can't just put 2 and 12. You have to put the times in between. So then round to the nearest whole number, he's going to have $6,358 dollars. After 12 years. So once again, I'm not sure why the coding is not working. I can't remember if you should put a T or a comma or an X, but know that this equation is right, because you're going to get the right value once you plug in the 12 years. And remember, semi means 2. That's why we're multiplying by 2, because it happens twice a year. So for this one, we have a company, annual sales $1,409.99, and it's increasing at a rate of 6%. So whenever you see a percentage, you need to make it a decimal. So the rate is 0.06. There is no word compounded or quarterly or anything like that, so we don't have to do anything fancy. We just have to do the 1 plus 0.06. and then raised to the t power. Now to simplify it, you just want to add the two numbers together, and then trust your calculator. So I'm going to put the whole equation in, but I don't want t anymore. I want to predict after 7 years. So after 7 years, we're going to have a lot of money, and that's going to be $225,543. So you can say the company will have $225,543 after 7 years. Now for slide number 10, to multiply, we are multiplying the bases together. So 3 times -2 gets you -6. And then we add, when we multiply the same base, we add the exponents. So then we get x to the -2 plus 2, and y to the third plus 5. Now -2 plus 2 goes away because anything to the 0 power is really a 1. So your answer is going to be -6, y to the 8th. Now for number 2, it's slightly different because you're dividing. So you actually have to divide the big numbers. You have to do the -21 divided by 3, which is -7. And then you subtract the exponents of the same base. So 2 minus 5 for the x. And notice y to the 5th times y to the 3rd. When you're multiplying, when you say times, you're adding the exponents. So then we have -7, x raised to the -3, and then y to the 8th. Now the only thing that you need to simplify is this negative exponent. We're not allowed to have negative exponents. So it's going to be -7, y to the 8th, because that's already positive. It's not going to move. And then we move x to the 3rd down. And when you actually move it, the exponent that was negative becomes positive. All right, for number 3, anything to the 0 power is 1. However, notice that negative sign right there. So it's really a -1. We are going to minus the exponents because we're dividing. There's really a 1 here. And then y to the 3rd divided by y squared, we minus the exponents. So it's going to be -1. 2 minus 1 is just x. Y to the 3rd minus 2 is just y. We don't even need that negative sign. Or I'm sorry, that 1. You need the negative sign. The coding may just have -xy as an answer. And then lastly, number 4, 2 times 3 is going to be 6. And then when you're multiplying the same base, remember we're adding the exponents. So I'm just going to add the exponents and then see what happens. See if I have to move anything. So the 6 stays put. Then I have x to the -3, y to the -2, and then z to the 7. Remember, all I did was add the exponents because you're multiplying the same base. Notice here, we have negative exponents. Negative exponents are not allowed. So we have to do the 6. We keep it. We keep z to the 7th because that was positive. And those two need to be moved to the denominator. So then we have x to the 3rd and y squared. When you move a negative exponent, if it was on top, you move it to the bottom and it becomes positive. If it was negative on the bottom, you move it to the top and the exponent becomes positive.